to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You remain standing. The invocation was given by Pastor Basio tonight.
Let's pray. Lord, we are thankful and grateful for another opportunity to be here. We ask for your presence to be here to lead and guide us. We pray for our city, for everyone here, those who are watching and others who are represented by those who lead. We ask that you would be with us and guide us. I pray for our students. I thank you that so many students are such wonderful examples of young women and men growing up and doing the right thing. I pray that you bring peace and comfort to their heart, and thank you for their strength. And we ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. The clerk take the roll, please.
All right. Councilman Templin.
Present.
Councilman Cisco.
Present.
Councilman DiGiulio.
Here.
Councilwoman Gabarecki.
Present.
Councilman Rourke. Here. Madam Pro Tem McLeod. Here. And Mayor Mategas.
Present.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Cisco, supported by Councilwoman Gavricki. Are there any corrections, changes, additions, deletions?
Let's separate claims and accounts, Mayor.
Without objections, we will take claims and accounts under A1 and make it a separate item. Are there any other changes to be made? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Motion to approve the minutes of March 13th, 2008.
Motion, Mayor.
Councilman DiGiulio has moved. Mayor Pro Tem McLeod has supported. Is there any corrections, changes? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. We have 3 public hearings tonight on Michigan Department of Natural Resource state grants, and the first being the Michigan DNR Recreation Passport Grant. The council, I think, approved the application at the March 13th meeting. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk?
Yes.
Do we just open this for a public hearing? Do I need a motion to do that?
Unless Pat needs it specifically for the record, I don't see why not. I don't see why we would. As long as you hold the hearing.
Okay. Then at this time, I'd like to open the hearing to discuss the state grants for the Allen Park Humpty Dumpty Park of $210,000. Are there any people in the audience that want to comment on this grant application?
Mr. Chairman, Dennis Hayes, Quant. I wonder if you would take a minute to explain what the intent of these grants are. I don't think, at least I don't. I don't know if anybody else knows what they're for. Thank you.
It's the removal and installation of new inclusive playground equipment at the Humpty Dumpty Park. $140,000 to come from the Michigan DNR. Which is called the Passport Grant, and $70,000 to come from the Wayne County Parks Grant Allocation, which is a millage that's imposed upon all homeowners or property owners in Wayne County. And we'd be using $70,000 of that from the 2016-17 and 2017-18 budget. Did I get it correct, Mr. Hawkins, who's our partner?
And through the chair, before he starts, I just want to let the council know you will be making a motion in support on 2 of these. And they'll be the exact resolutions that are in the minutes from the previous meeting. So if you want to refer to them, just look right
Mike's
there.
being kind. Each one of these grants runs between 35 and 85 pages as far as the guidelines. And one of the new conditions on the trust fund grant and the land and water conservation grant is that the resolution must be passed after the public hearing. And it was something new. I missed it. It was just one line, and then it came up later as being new. And so I messed up on asking for the resolution at the last meeting. Should have asked for them at this meeting. So for the record, they're going to look for the dates and everything else, and so that's why I'm going to ask for 2 resolutions to be repeated tonight. If I may, as far as the Humpty Dumpty Park is concerned, it's difficult to explain without talking about some of the other parks, and I think that if we look at the success of Duda Park down in, shall we say, the central part of the city, and the inclusiveness for all people, whether they're special needs, whether they're wheelchair, whether they have physical handicaps, or whether they have no handicaps whatsoever. It seems to be the very favorite park in the city. So for about a year and a half, we've been talking about doing something in a similar frame or manner in another part of the city, so that it would take a little pressure off of Duda, number one. And number two is to put the right kind of park in the neighborhoods. And so I didn't make 20 color copies, but if you want to take a look at this, this is just a rendering of what we're looking at. And we would, instead of the poured-in-place rubber that they put down at Duda, we would be using the tiles, but we would still need an aggregate base. And the reason we're using the tiles is after some study, there's very little repair, and when you do, you can repair it with one tile rather than trying to make a whole wall look good after something is, say there's a hole in the wall, trying to fix that hole in the wall and make it look all like it belongs. Repairing a tile or repairing 2 tiles is not a problem. And so our intent is to make this fully ADA compliant, with access from the sidewalks, to include equipment that all kids can use, and to put something in a different part of the city that's been very successful in the central part of the city. Again, as the mayor explained, this does not involve general fund monies. It's requesting the grant, and it's basically using the Wayne County Parks allocation money.
Would we end up with 3 motions, though?
3 different public hearings, 3 different motions, yes.
Yes, okay.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead. Councilman Cisco.
For everybody to see or to know, can you tell us where these parks are located?
Humpty Dumpty is at Lawrence and Arlington, yes. Most of the parks that have not been replaced in the city right now, that haven't been replaced in the last 4 years, are pushing 50 years old. And it's not just that they're out of compliance. If you looked at some of the wear on some of the equipment, the S-hooks are almost worn through, or some of them have just about worn through. But we've taken a maintenance approach on all of the equipment, and we're replacing parts and pieces until we can get to every park in the city. And that's going to take a number of years. And I'll kind of sit down.
So our resolution should say we approve your application for these funds from DNR or the trust fund.
Yes, with the fund.
The applications haven't been done yet. I mean, they haven't been submitted.
No, they have to go in this week. The notice of intents have all been submitted, so they're expecting them. And this is really the last phase, besides the touching up of the narration and the records of this meeting and each one of these public hearings.
Thank you. Let's just see if we have any other citizens.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Ray McGusson-Quant, through the chair, Pat. Maybe you can help. Is any of this going to be volunteers going to be involved in this at all? And also, do you really think that we're going to be getting the grants?
First of all, regarding the volunteers, because of the aggregate work and the process of it, I originally told you no. But on the other hand, I don't want to turn away what we've had. We've had a lot of success with the volunteers and the community build in the last couple of years. If we can get this thing done and the concrete is last, then the answer is yes, we can do that. But if the process requires the aggregate to be done at the same time we're building, then I would say no. And so I have to wait until we get, wait until we see that we're going to do it. And where did Ray go? Do you understand what I mean? As far as the aggregate or the concrete work, depending on when that falls into the scheme of things, that will determine. But I'd certainly like to use the community build. And if we don't do it for this part of the project, these tot lots are now going to be looking at fencing that's a little bit different. We can certainly use the help there, without question. And there was another question.
The other question is, how sure?
Oh, I would tell you that we have to submit these, and by submitting more than one, you have to tell them what your priorities are. And the Humpty Dumpty one is priority number 1. The Cunningham Park is priority number 2, and the Real Park is priority number 3. What are the odds that we get 1? I think it's 50-50. What are the odds that we get 2? I think they start to go down, okay? That's the reality of what I see, okay? But to not apply for something that you qualify for is, I'm going to still submit them,
Okay.
okay?
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins.
Insofar as this money, as I understand it, is money that we pay in taxes to the countywide tax, is there not a proportion of that that we are essentially entitled to? Or is these grants so much more than what we would normally get? Or is it like every other year they give somebody a big chunk and then a lower chunk the other year or something? How does that exactly work? Thank you.
You're asking me regarding the county money?
Yes.
The county money, we should be proportioned out based on our population, based on the tax collection. That's what it should be. But nobody's ever seen their formula. And I do know that we have collected more money in each year in the last 4 years than any neighboring community around here, including Dearborn. And so I think a lot of it has to do with the push from your county commissioner. They really need this. And we let our commissioner know, Commissioner Warrencheck, know ahead of time what we're looking for. Whether others do that or not, I don't know. Whether he has influence as chairman of the commission, I don't know. But nobody's ever seen the formula. They just know that a certain portion of it gets distributed. Okay?
Throw in there, I mean, through the chair. So I think a lot of times that also plays into the ability of the community to get the project done in a timely fashion, so that the commissioner isn't left holding the money in year after year after year.
Yeah, I think Mr. Kibbe is correct. We have used all of the funds that have been given to us in the last few years. Other cities, they ask for an extension year after year after year. Show me the money and I'm going to spend it. And we're putting all that money into playgrounds.
Or anyone else would like to come forward? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for a motion by council to approve Parks and Rec Director Pat Hawkins to apply for a recreation passport grant, removal and installation of new inclusive playground equipment at Humpty Dumpty Park with a total project cost of $210,000, with funding of $140,000 from the state grant and $70,000 from the 2017-18 and 2016-17 county allocation of $70,000.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Rourke. I'm sorry, to my right was the second. Councilman DiGiulio. Is there any discussion by council? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried, thank you. Second one is the Michigan Land and Water Conservation Grant for Brier Rabbit Park, and it is in the amount of $210,000. And I will start the public meeting and have Mr. Hawkins explain it this time instead of myself.
Well, this is our priority number 3 grant. And as we looked at what were the important things, what we felt were the important things, the things that the commission felt were important, and then it just so happened, nationally and statewide, the inclusive playground and the safety tiles seemed to be a big push, but we had already determined that was where we were going before all these conferences and seminars and them telling us that's the way we should go. And so we were looking at doing a similar project at Brier Rabbit, which would mean we would have a project for all kids, whether it be special needs, physically handicapped, or no handicaps whatsoever, in the north, in the central, and in the south. And that would, so a very similar project that we just explained is what we'd be looking at Brier Rabbit.
And that's at Chatham and Melbourne.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
At the Triangle.
At the Triangle.
Got it.
We'll put a test to the council, I think, in the students
I
later
knew
on.
I'd heard it.
Find your 22 parks.
Does any citizen like to come forward and speak to this matter? You heard it's at Chatham and Melbourne. It's a little triangular park there. I don't think it even amounts to an acre at this, if I
I don't think so.
Yes.
It was less than.
Maybe you might want to just, I don't know, did we mention the dollar amount?
You know, I was looking for it here.
Well, it was $210,000. Funding would be $140,000 from the DNR. Oh, well, I'm looking at the wrong one, but still $210,000. 210,000, 105 from the Land and Water Conservation Grant, and 105 from the CDBG funds.
Got myself confused because on our resolutions, Brier Park was the third one last time,
Oh,
and it's listed second here. But you indicated that that's our third priority. Okay.
It has to be written in the narrative as you submit it, which is your priority 1,
Sure.
priority 2, and priority 3, and this will be the priority 3.
All right. Any citizens wish to come forward? I see none, so I'm going to close the public hearing and ask the council for a motion.
Motion.
support.
Yep, it's exactly the same language, same amount, except it's $105,000 from the state grant, $105,000 from community block grant funds, and again, the motion, Councilman Templeman has moved. Did I have a support from
Support.
Councilwoman Gavricki? All right. Is there any discussion by council? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried, thank you. Third and last park. Is Cunningham Park, which is back off of Pinecrest, behind the homes along Pinecrest, and going back to, I guess that's I-94, is it not?
That's correct.
And
Southfield.
eastern boundary, I guess, is Southfield.
Depends on, I never saw the end of which way north was when I looked at that site plan, but that's the area.
I think it's turning right
That's the
there,
area,
so
right.
it might be the east end, could be the north end, though. But in any event, if you would go through the amounts and where the source of funds will be from.
All right, this is our largest grant that request. The total amount on this grant, the total cost of the project is $412,126. I'm sending, there's a picture of it going around if you'd like to see it. I only have a couple left if anybody wants one. But this, being a park that families use for picnics, it's also a park that's used for athletics, football, baseball, but it's also a park that's reserved with a shelter and a very well-used park for families, not just a tot lot. And so the size of this is quite a bit larger. This one, when I say fully inclusive, means that the wheelchair, people with a wheelchair, they can get to the second and third level in their wheelchair, not just on a transfer station. And so it's somewhat of an elaborate, but it's appropriate for the people that come to use our park and have a family picnic. Right now, when it's 50-year-old equipment, we don't want them, we want them to say, we want to have our picnic in Allen Park. We don't want to go somewhere else. And Cunningham Park is a great park for that. Yes, it's not paved, but we grade it every year, and you know, if you can get to that point, which usually happens in April or May, it's a very well-used park. And I know Mr. Mizzy, your scouts use it quite often, but many families rent that park. So this one is $412 total cost. Funding would be $298,384 from the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant, $63,742 from a Game Time grant, and $50,000 from the 2018-19 Wayne County Parks grant allocation, and also supported by CDBG funds if they're designated. Could you help me with that?
I should have jumped in on the last one, because usually we, you know, CDBG funds are usually limited to the two areas of the community. But because they're involving inclusive parks, the funds are eligible for other areas. And as we've done in the past, there are application opportunities coming up that we'll be able to apply for that are in addition to our normal allocation.
A demonstration grant, I think, was what I was looking for. But the funding is available. Again, we're not looking at using general fund monies.
Thank you. Do any citizens wish to come forward and discuss this grant application?
Well, Robert Turner, just in general, I want to thank Pat, compliment him on all the work he did. There's a lot of paperwork involved in this thing. He gave me a stack of papers like this, and I just skimmed through it, and I went to the DNR site. So it's all about doing things administrative correct, and Pat has done this. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak about this grant application for this park? See no one coming forward, so I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for a motion by the council. Councilman Rourke has moved, Councilman Cisco has supported to have Parks and Rec Director Hawkins apply for the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant in the amount of $298,384. Total project cost of $412,126, $63,742 from a Game Time grant, $50,000 from the county's 18-19 Parks collection. Oh, and CDBG funds in the amount of $113,742. So the motion, is there any discussion?
I have one. I'm not sure it really matters, but the resolution has the correct dollar amount of $412,126. The council agenda has $412,000. Just if any, you've said it 126 more than once.
I put the exact amount. Actually, the grant is looking for, they want your numbers in hundreds. So if it's
Okay.
412,100, that'll work.
Oh, okay, I got it. I mean, the resolution is correct.
I will be copy and pasting from the previous minute, just changing a couple
Well, I think
things.
it's going to be 412,126.
I was hoping you guys would follow the motion and the supports, too. No.
Sorry, I tried. Thanks.
So it is going to be, Do the moving parties on this object to increasing it $126? All right. If there's no further discussion, I'll ask for the vote on this matter. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll go to the organizational business. The city administrator will present his reports and
Good evening once again,
documents.
Mayor, council, residents, and students. The street improvement millage work is likely to start next week on Colonial Court. The frost laws are expected to be lifted soon to allow the contractor to get started. McLean Avenue, Allen Road to Park Avenue, and Park Avenue, Wick Road to Leslie will follow after Colonial Court. And then also street sectioning and CDBG street sectioning should also start within the next 2 weeks as well. The water main replacement project, Brico Excavating has completed the installation of the water main at Colonial Court. The new water mains have been installed on McLean Avenue, that's also Allen Road to Park Avenue, Marquise Avenue, Fox Avenue to Rosedale Avenue, and Thomas Avenue, Rosedale to the city limits with Lincoln Park. And they're ready for services to be installed here in the next few days to early next week. The College Avenue project, which is Lawrence Avenue to the city limit with Lincoln Park, water main has been installed and they're now being prepared for the testing that is required. Liquid Force has finished lining 5 of the 14 sewer sections. Those lines finished are north of Southfield Road and south of Outer Drive. Their crews are trained this week, but when they return, they'll be working in the area of Cleveland, Garfield, and Rosedale. From there, they're going to be working over to going over to the area of Osage and Ecorse. This one's kind of an interesting thing that happened here. For the last few years, the youth basketball program through the Recreation Department has been affiliated with the Pistons Academy. It's been part of the Detroit Pistons Academy, I should say. There's 5 programs associated with that. It's the City of Allen Parks program, the YMCA Livonia, YMCA Plymouth, Southfield, and Birmingham. And on Friday, March 23rd, the Pistons Academy Awards were held at Little Caesars Arena. Pat told me there was about 3,500 people down there in attendance or so. And Allen Parks' Aaron Shriver, a 5th grader at Benny Elementary, won the Pistons Academy Player of the Year Award for the girls. So congratulations to Aaron. They had some other nominees from our recreation program were Addison Wallace, Girls Player of the Year, Max Ball, Free Throw Specialist, Peyton Shear, Grant Hill, Playmaker of the Year. I'm wondering if some of these kids even knew who these players are. I wonder if some of the students even know who these players are. Stephen Doyle, Ben Wallace, Defensive Player of the Year, Andon Milner, Chauncey Billups, Best Teammate, and Alex Varga, Isaiah Thomas, Heart of Champion. As we're mentioning basketball, there's a little basketball event coming up here, the Final Four. I'm a graduate of Michigan. Mr. Katie back there is a graduate of Villanova. There's a great possibility that those two teams may be battling next Monday for the championship. So we put a little bet on the line. The loser, if those two teams happen to play for the championship, the loser will have to shave their head. So we also talked about maybe just letting our hair grow out first, which we don't have that kind of time. So, but you know, there's some jousting going on back and forth between with the Final Four there. So, the Allen Park VFW, they made a donation of $7,500 to the city. As you know, they closed up their operation and they sold their property. So they've donated $7,500. We're working with Parks and Rec Director Hawkins. He's getting prices together to make repairs to flagpoles or replacement costs for flagpoles at Cunningham Park and Champaign Park. Both are in need of some repairs or replacement, and we thought that would probably be the best use, given the fact that the VFW associated with the American flag, I think, go hand in hand with the VFW. So Pat's working on that for us right now. Planning Commissioners Donald Graham and James Powell, they've received the Michigan Association of Planning's Certificate of Completion for successfully completing their Planning and Zoning Essentials training. They held that in Wayne County, I think it was down in Southgate, on March 20th. The Planning Commission as a whole will benefit from this training with sharing of valuable information in such areas as making effective decisions, development of master plans, proper interpretation of ordinances, risk management, and other essential procedures. So we do congratulate those two gentlemen on that certificate and appreciate their extra time that they put in to help gain more knowledge for the Planning Commission as a whole. Also a reminder, the library will be closed on starting this Friday, March 30th through Thursday, April 4th. They're going to be having the new LED lights installed at the library, so be able to read a little bit better lighting when you're over there at the library. And then for the City Hall project, if you drive by there, you'll notice the masons are installing the precast stone on the exterior of the wall. We didn't paint the building black. It has a stone finish, it has a brick finish. So they're gonna be also starting on the brick sometime in the next week or so. Everything is now weather dependent on the exterior work. The drywall crew, they only have a few small areas to hang some drywall board on the inside, and then they've also been working on mudding and taping the police department, the council chambers, and the conference room areas. If you've gone through a construction project and you walk through there, we walk out, we're dusty white, so you just got to make sure you don't brush up against every single wall in there. They are painting a lot of the walls too. They've got primer on a number of them that they've been able to, and then they've also got some the paint color going up as well. Most of the ceiling grid is all up in the City Hall side. They'll be ready to start hanging some or placing the ceiling tiles here in the next week or so as they continue to keep moving forward. Light fixtures, heating and cooling vents, air diffuser vents, and the sprinkler heads they're all ready to be put into place with the ceiling tiles and so forth. Ceramic tile has been installed in all the bathrooms as well as the police male and female locker rooms. The IT and security equipment crews, they're nearly finished pulling all their wire for whatever needs they had. And then the police secured parking area, the concrete has been removed to get the proper slope for the drainage and also for the install the entrance and exit areas. Making some great progress. Looking like we'll be moving in there sometime around May 1st. We've got to be out of here. So 2 more meetings. I think you'll be happy with the new facility. You won't be able to sit maybe as far apart from each other as you are now. You have to be a little bit closer because the seating is a little bit more limited. But I think people will be really pleased when they go through and see how nice it's coming out there. So. And I hit a milestone yesterday with the city. At 3 years with the city, I'm very fortunate to work with a great group of department heads, employees, council, mayor, and the residents. I love my time being here, so I'm looking forward to many more years to come. So it seems hard to believe that 3 years ago I got a call to come in here, and I think Bob had me cleaning offices, getting them ready to move over here. So something about that. So.
Motion to accept and file updates, reports, and documents.
Motion, Mayor.
Councilman DeGiulio has moved.
Support.
Councilwoman Gavrecki has supported. Is there any questions of City Administrator? I see no.
I do have more pictures. If you follow the Facebook page, I've been posting pictures up on the Facebook page, and I'll get more up there. I think I got another 18 or 19 to go up probably this evening.
I will ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That is carried. Thank you very much. We're at the public comment section. I would just ask everyone to be aware of the rules of decorum when commenting or questioning before the council. So any citizens, please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Ray McGusson. A couple questions. Through the chair, Mayor, to all our citizens outside, to all our parents that are listening, to all the parents that are sitting in our audience right now, please go through your drug cabinets. Please go through them. Please get rid of the ones that are outdated, the ones that you're not using anymore. And please go ahead and please turn them over here into our police department, into the red container. So your children, your grandchildren, or anybody get a hold of them and have overdoses. And not only that, a lot of our medication we even have as adults are outdated, have expired, including the ones that our grandparents or our parents are at right now, who are living by themselves, who don't really realize that their medication has expired. And with that said, I would also like to go through the chair, Mayor, and please address maybe our police department for a wonderful job they did last year in coming through our communities and helping us. But I also think it's time that our fire department also work with us, and they have in the past, in trying to educate us that smoke alarms only are good for 10 years, and after that, they're no good. Then also your batteries need to be changed. And not only that is, there's different type of smoke detectors. And we might have the wrong kind of smoke detectors in our houses now. And not only that is, there are newer type of smoke detectors. And we need to be educated like that. And carbon monoxide sensors. Maybe we can get grant money that can help us to go ahead and help our citizens to get carbon monoxide sensors in our houses and to help us making sure that batteries are changed. And not only that, making sure those carbon monoxide sensors are placed in the right location. Same thing with our smoke alarms. I want to thank you for your time, but please, citizens out there, listen. Go through your drugs. We have a massive problem out here. Let's try to help it. Thank you very much for your time, Harry.
Prescription drugs, right?
Prescription drugs and the other drugs. I just said drugs. But I'll go through, prescription drugs. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Dennis Hayes, Quant. A couple meetings ago, I went over my concerns about the appointment to the Police and Fire Civil Service Commission. I heard the comments of Gail McLeod, the Mayor Pro Tem, after I left the meeting. I wrote her. She responded. I didn't get a response from the main person I would have hoped to have, the mayor, but my fundamental issue is this. It's very simple. Unlike all the many commissions we have in this city, we only have one that is a creature of a state law, Public Act 78. That law specifies, and it seems so plain on its reading, that management, meaning the mayor and council, picks a person representative of their interests. Police and fire paid employees pick a person representative of their interests, and those two come together to pick a third party, hopefully someone in between. The mayor, in his wisdom or lack of wisdom, chose a retiree of the police department. So now we have Mr. Beaton was chosen by the police and fire, a known labor fellow, electrical worker, union man all his life. The police and fire pick a retiree, union man, previously at least, policeman. So we have a stacked deck, two people from the House of Labor, and now we got the third party who was appointed today by these two, who's probably half labor and half management. So we essentially have 2.5 votes in favor of the labor position generally. Now, I appreciate Mrs. McLeod writing me back. I think she misapprehended my points because her argument was that somehow we can't get people to volunteer. Well, my argument is this mayor of ours, we're lucky to have a man who's got his tenure in this city, grew up here, lived here his whole life, knows probably virtually everybody in the community. And it seems to me that had he understood the statute or realized the consequences of his decision, he could have gone out into the community and said one of his fellow friends at the golf club or whatever who worked at Ford Motor, who was a manager, and say, hey, I need you on this committee to represent management's interests. Because nobody can read that statute and not understand what it meant. You get a choice, they get a choice, and then they'd come to get a third choice. And if you don't see that, I can't help you. But I just want to go on record and making sure we're all clear. And Mrs. McLeod, I took issue. She said, I guess she thought I thought the gentleman wasn't qualified. He was certainly qualified. He's certainly eligible. There's no prescription against a retiree being eligible. I didn't say that. In fact, I said quite the opposite in my comments at this podium. I said, he's perfectly eligible. He's just not the right guy for management to choose. And I ask you all, please, maybe we can't do anything about it this time, but for future reference, for God's sake, read the statute and understand the point. Finally, on a lesser serious note, I want to say that having attended 2 Jesuit schools, Marquette and U of D, I tend to lean towards Loyola, and I know that's sacrilege in this state, in this and with the mayor sitting there, a grad of U of M. My dad was a grad of U of M Law School. I got a brother who has 2 degrees from U of M. But I got a brother who's a Jesuit priest at Holy Cross College, another Jesuit school, and he's a chaplain. And I'm for Sister Jean. Sister Jean is 98. She's going to be bringing those guys home with any luck. And then I'm thinking also, Bob, it may be an all-Catholic final because Villanova, of course, is an Augustinian school. So we got potential for 2 Catholic schools in the final matchup next Monday, I guess. So go Loyola. Thank you.
I should add, I am kind of torn because I am a graduate of a U of D, which is a Jesuit university as well, so got to balance out here.
Get Dennis on the shave your head deal.
Any other comments from the public?
Ron Meestor, Reek Road. Last meeting, you guys, at the last resolution that you passed was for the generator at the new building at City Hall. And Mayor, you had thought it was propane, but in the last fleeting moment, Mr. Kibbe said it was diesel. Is it diesel? And will there be enough storage facility for the fuel of that?
I believe it is diesel.
And are they
Correct,
making
it is diesel.
plans to put, because this came up at the last minute, are they making plans for the containment of the diesel and for that?
Yeah, that's all been designed into the, that was already pre-designed into the plan.
Oh, before the grant?
Yes.
Okay.
There had always been a plan to have a generator there, whether it came through this means or we had to go into the next budget year to.
But you're always thinking of a diesel one, not a propane?
Always, I believe it was always a diesel.
Or natural gas, that's what, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I was, that's
Yeah,
what.
I don't think natural gas
The
came
mayor
into
had
play on
brought that
that.
up, so. Oh, okay. All right, that's, I just, at the last meeting, it was unclear. Thanks.
I see no other citizens coming forward, so I'm going to go to the next item on our agenda. Claims and accounts was pulled from the consent agenda, and I'd ask for a motion to put that before the council.
Motion.
Councilman DiGiulio has moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman, or Mayor Pro Tem McLeod has seconded. Councilman DiGiulio, you moved. Do you have any questions on claims and accounts?
I do. We've spent $2,964 this month on 15073 Philomene. How much do we have in that so far, in that house there? It's dilapidated, it needs to be taken down. So how much do we have in that? Do you know? Do you have any idea approximately how much money we spent on that so far?
Yeah, I do. The total from, I'm not too sure, I didn't get the actual date that we started on that project, but we're at $17,582.61.
So we've spent $17,000 trying to get a house that should have been knocked down long ago. How about the taxes on that house? I know they haven't been paid this year, but have they been paid? What's going on with the property taxes on it?
They came up on a preliminary list that we received from Wayne County that they are, would be 3 years delinquent this July. So we'll see how that plays out, if he does pay them or not.
So he only has to
He'd only have to pay 1 year.
1 year?
To keep it.
Okay. So we've got quite a bit of money in that, into a house that can never be rehabilitated from the way it looks. It really looks terrible. And from what I understand, the basement was filled with water, so it's got many problems with it. And it's embarrassing for the 2 neighbors on either side, how neat they keep their houses. Okay, anyway, let's go here to litigation. This $408 for Pentock and Covier. Mr. Hurley, do you know what that would be about, right here? Do not, okay, that's all right.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right, don't worry about it. You can just go on from there. How about this one here for
Prosecution, I know that.
well, prosecution's at 2,000, but this one here is for $1,170 on top of our prosecution.
Yes, that was, most of the work that we do on the prosecutions is a flat fee, and anything that is set for a jury trial is set separately, and it's set on a different day. So that relates to that.
That was a jury trial, was
There
it?
was a case that was set for jury, yes.
And how'd that go?
We picked a jury, and we ended up having a complication, but the case is since resolved. It's completed now.
What was it about? Can you tell us?
It was
or-
a drunk driving case.
Drunk driving? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And
I'm sorry. It was a drunk driving case over at the city.
okay. And then we also have the labor attorney, Seacrest Wardle. We have another, $494, so that should take us pretty close to, and maybe a little over $280,000 we've spent on that. Is that correct? We've spent that on the retirees lawsuit?
Yeah, we were at 275 a couple meetings ago.
Okay, and then we had last month's stuff and then this year, so we're getting into the $280,000 range that we've had to spend on that lawsuit. And then maybe, Mr. Kibbe, you can explain this one here on the last one here on the GO bonds, $140,000. I'm not sure I understand what that's about.
Those are for general obligation bonds for the 2010 bond. Bob, what is 2010?
For the Southfield lease property?
That's the third bond.
If you remember, there were 3 bonds issued for the purchase of the Southfield lease properties, which basically includes the 104 acres. There was the $25 million main taxable issue. There was a $3 million Series B, which was a non-taxable issue that was used for improvements. And then there was a 2010 issue a year later that was for improvements to be made to the building at some point. That's the one that we did not do a call on and refinance. We used that money, if you remember, to purchase the City Hall property over there on the other side of the tracks, and also being used as for part of the renovation. And that's what that bond payment is for, that 2010.
So this is the payment on that bond?
I think that what you're seeing there is just the interest payment. There is another payment and with the principal. We pay it twice a year. Twice we pay, and it's half the interest in one, half the interest in the other. And then also on the May payment, there's a principal payment. So you'll see another one next month.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir, Mr. Cady.
If I may, through the chair, Councilman, the 408 was for a tax appeal.
For a tax, somebody appealed their taxes?
Yeah, it was a tax appeal, WCF land.
How did they do?
I don't have that, I just have the invoice.
Okay, just the amount? All right. Thank you very much.
Councilman Cisco.
This is probably for Mr. Cady. Sorry you had to go sit down.
That helps hair grow, don't worry.
So, funny that we just happened to be talking about the bond issue yesterday.
That's why I know the numbers so well.
But the bonds that you're talking about, the 2010 C bond, that would be the C bond, correct?
They didn't really call it C. That's what
ABC.
everybody calls it, C.
Right.
But there was 2 issues in 2009, A and B, and then the 2010 issue, which commonly gets referred to as the C bonds.
All right, so we're just talking about the C bond, 2010, $2.725 million.
Yes.
And out of that, there's 2.2 million.
Yes, some of that money.
Are there any records to show where that $500,000 was spent by the Burtka administration?
There probably is. I've never really looked for it, and I know that when we were doing the refinancing, we were asked that question, and I'd have to go back and look at my notes to see what they discovered. The one attorney from Stoddard Barch, I think it was, who was working on this, was trying to put together the complete list of the assets and what was spent on the building, and I can try to dig that out for you.
I would appreciate it. I'd like to know where that $500,000 went, because I don't see it.
No, that came from the DDA.
That floor in the, what we call the 1600 building, that was paid for by the DDA.
Yeah. I'll try to take a look at my notes, and I'll get back to council.
And that
on
was
one.
300 and some thousand dollars. Pre-Jennifer Kibbe. I just want to say that, okay? I don't want to implicate anybody here. But, and by the way, that floor was done, it was contracted out, it was done, but there was never, I don't know how to put that, but there was never a reason to do it. There was never documentation other than the money spent and the contractor paid by the DDA. But there was never anything in writing from the city to that 1600 building of 300 and some thousand dollars. Never. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions by council? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. We have a consent agenda for the last three items, the payroll report, and then under licenses and report, an AP handbill permit for Kevin Brogan seasonal property management, where I think he's going to ask people to hire him for landscape management. Parade permit for Jesse Jackson with APAC for the annual parade down Champaign, May 5th at 10 a.m.
Through the chair, I am going to put on the record that we will be waiving the fee for APAC.
Can I have a motion for those?
Support.
Moved by Councilman Cisco, supported by Councilman DiGiulio. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Thank you very much.
Oh, if you had questions on that, I'm sorry. I did have a question on that, I'm sorry. But it's too late, so go ahead.
Oh, I thought on a consent agenda, we waived questions.
Oh, we waited. Yep, we did. Never mind, that's my mistake. I just woke up. Okay.
Under resolutions, public hearing set for Tuesday, April 24th, 2018, for the fiscal year 2018-19 budget of the city, and the clerk to publish the hearing and notice. A motion for that, please. Councilman Rourke has moved. Councilwoman Gavrecki has seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Resolution to authorize a representative to the Downriver Utility Wastewater Authority to vote on the definitive transfer agreement with Wayne County.
Motion.
Support.
By Mayor Pro Tem McLeod, supported by Councilman Templin. Is there any discussion? We had a work session before on this matter. So I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Councilman Rourke has voted nay, but the motion carries 6-1.
Through the chair, do I need to name it? Do we need to name that person, or do we already have the representative? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I am the representative to that, so I assumed as the vice chair of that committee and from Allen Park that I was the representative, but it doesn't even say on here
Doesn't.
place to put the name of the representative.
Well, since you do our voting, I assume, okay, I just want to make sure before, yeah, okay.
Municipalities member. So you're the member.
Council has said, it says municipalities member, and I am the member that represents us. Okay?
Thank you.
Oh. Mike, on that resolution, we're required to have a roll call. I'm sorry. So could we do a roll call for that, please?
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Bet you I know how it's going to turn out, Kevin. No. Okay, and this is, I have a motion by Madam Pro Tem McLeod, supported by Councilman Templin, to authorize a representative to the Downriver Utility Wastewater Authority to vote on the definitive transfer agreement with Wayne County. Shall this resolution pass? Councilman DeGiulio?
Yes.
Councilman Gavareki?
Yes.
Madam Pro Tem McLeod?
Yes.
Mayor Mategas?
Yes.
Councilman Rourke?
No.
Councilman Cisco?
Yes.
And Councilman Templin?
Yes.
The yeses have it, 6-1.
I'm at the point of other business, so any of the council or Mayor Pro Tem wish to speak at this time? Councilman DeGiulio.
I'll talk before Harry, otherwise we'll run out of time. Kudos to our two police and fire commissioners, Mr. Malcolm Beaton and Mr. David Tringer. They did today pick a third commissioner, a gentleman called Mr. Gary Dell. So now we have a full board for our Police and Fire Civil Service Commission. And also, I really have to give kudos to the young people in our city here, the young men and women of our communities. They really stood up this past couple of weeks. So now it's time, I think, for the politicians to stand up and also for the schools to take a bigger part, for the school administration. All right, thank you and good night.
Councilman Rourke.
Just wish a happy Easter to everybody and everybody that's going on spring break to have a safe spring break as well. So pay attention to your surroundings and things like that. And thank the students for coming back.
Councilwoman Gavreki.
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. And have a happy Easter.
Councilman Cisco?
Yes, I'll speak. You know, for the last number of meetings, you know, I've addressed to the young people, our high school students, about the power of voting. And you see with the recent marches that have taken place in the last few weeks, and I've said this before, there is power in numbers. You have the ability to change the way things are. You have the ability to shape the future. And I know we have a lot of good teachers over there. and you have to register to vote. And here's another thing. Have discussions with your friends about voting. Have discussions with your mom and dad about voting. Because I think if we look through the numbers, older people vote more, sort of in that middle part, about 30 or 40, the voting kind of drops off a little bit. So those might be your parents. You know, you need to talk to them about how important it is if they haven't voted, or maybe forget. Maybe it's your job to talk to them and tell them, hey, mom, hey, dad, go out and vote. Let's not complain, let's vote, and let's change. So I appreciate all that the young women and the young men have done. And don't let the negativity that might come your way make you back up. If anything, it makes you go forward, not backwards. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I didn't want to be repetitive, but a happy Easter to everyone, and thank you, Harry. I think the fact that you're continually encouraging people to vote and participate is something that needs to be oft repeated. All we have to do is look at some current and recent elections where they've had recounts and somebody lost by 1 vote, so your vote does count. And as I've stated before, you want to make sure that you're well-educated voters. And yes, talk to your peers and talk to your parents, but also remember that you're individuals and retain that individuality, and you don't always have to agree with your parents or your peers. You make your own decisions, and that's one of the most important things you can do as a young adult, is learn to make your own decisions and stand by them. And with that, have a good evening, and thank you.
Just like to thank everybody for being here tonight, and have a happy Easter.
I too want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. And I would tell you that tomorrow night, the Henry Ford Hospital System, the Downriver Guidance Clinic, and Baker College, at Baker College from 6 to 9, is having a program on opioid and drug addictions. And I urge you, if you have an opportunity, to come out. They have a number of very fine speakers, and it's something that we all have to be concerned with. Just within our own city, you may think there's no drug problem, but just fentanyl deaths in this city have almost been on a double rate for the last 3 years. I think it was 2 in 2015 and 4 in 16 and 8 in 17, and it's a terrible drug. They use it as something that they add to a lot of other drugs that people take, and it's just a devastating thing. Now for more pleasant thoughts, our new smart van is outside the door, so if you want to take a look at that, it is available for use within the city to drive us that need transportation for various things that we have to do and get. I too want to wish everyone a happy Easter, but also to our Jewish friends, I hope that they have a wonderful Passover, which starts this Friday. So two of the great religions of the Middle East celebrate important days. I'll ask for an adjournment at this time.
Motion, support.
Councilman O'Rourke has moved. Councilman DiGiulio has supported. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned at 7:10.
Is that